Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl Butler, and you're listening to the Mighty Mommy's Quick and Dirty Tips podcast, which will help make your life as a parent a little bit easier and a lot more fun. Welcome! Today's episode is number 388, 7 Ways to Recreate the Camp Experience at Home, because there's something very special and nostalgic about going to camp. We have a special treat this week. Our Quick and Dirty Tips intern, Emily Jones, wrote this episode for Mighty Mommy. Emily Jones is the Quick and Dirty Tips intern for the summer of 2016, and she's a rising junior at Cornell University, where she edits the dining section of the Cornell Daily Sun. Last week, I dropped my son off at camp for a week. I honestly think I had just as much fun dropping him off as he had going. Okay, well, maybe that's stretching it just a bit. Because the minute we pull into that Boy Scout campsite, I feel like I'm in an entirely new world. The trees are so lush and green, and the air is crisp and clean. The crickets are chirping gently in the background, and the smell of last night's campfire softly lingers in the air. And it's as if time stands still. You can hear kids' laughter echoing throughout the grounds and through the lake. Mother Nature is in charge now. And there's absolutely nothing better. Emily wrote a wonderful piece about how to recreate the camp experience at home. And as a busy mom of 8, I can totally relate. I know you'll enjoy it as much as I did. Here are 7 ways to go to camp without actually leaving home. Number 1. Unplug. In going to camp, one of the biggest adjustments was leaving behind the internet. It was undergoing withdrawal from the knowledge, information, resources, and entertainment of a seemingly boundless worldwide network, disconnecting from instant communication with people also connected to this network. But after a week of unplugging, I felt free. Off the grid, I was liberated from the obligation of responding and refreshing, of being updated and notified. I didn't have to worry about what everyone else was doing, and with who and where, and how it compared to what I was doing, because I had no means of knowing. My experiences were my own, and their value wasn't tainted by a comparison to any others. Obviously, unplugging isn't always or even often possible in everyday life, but I try to set aside certain times or days to go wireless. I've learned that disconnecting, even briefly, can help in regaining a sense of freedom and control over life. Tip number 2, live in the moment. In eliminating my virtual existence, I became fully immersed in the physical and natural world around me. I breathed in every pine needle of the forest, ogled over every watercolor sunset, tasted every overcooked, undersalted noodle in my nightly pasta bowl. My senses were fully engaged, and I felt alive. Life wasn't missed or muted by the senseless distractions of social media platforms. It wasn't filtered by Instagram posts, and it wasn't performed to be posted as a Snapchat story. The only tweets of those 4 weeks were from real-life birds. In unplugging, I was able to develop more intimate connections with my cabinet mates in 4 weeks of camp than I had formed with my classmates over an entire year of school. We did spend a higher quantity of time together, but also a higher quality of time. When we ate, we looked directly at each other and we heard what the other had to say. We played games and made up skits and braided hair. We were each other's entertainment. We weren't just Facebook friends, we were actually friends. I found that unplugging is the one step towards living in the moment, but it also requires an awareness and an appreciation of what's going on around you. Tip number 3, be yourself. Makeup, hair straighteners, hair curlers, and blow dryers weren't allowed at camp. Yikes. We were encouraged to embrace how we looked naturally. We were discouraged from making ourselves into anything we weren't. And though these rules directly targeted only external appearances, they indirectly encouraged an appreciation of inner self. We were taught the irrelevance of appearance and feeling loved and having fun. Camp activities spanned a range of areas catering to a range of talents, interests, and skills, from athleticism to artsiness to sandcastle building. We were encouraged to pursue the activities that interested us, to cultivate what made us unique and special, to be silly. We dressed in ridiculous outfits, put on nonsensical skits, and danced like no one was watching. It was in stripping us to our most vulnerable selves that we let go of who we were supposed to be and exposed who we were. So maybe you won't have your own trashy fashion show and parade down a bunk line in the hottest garbage bag styles of the year, but you can try to accept who you are unabashedly inside and out. Tip number 4, become a better version of yourself. Whether trying out for the play or climbing to the top of the rock wall, we were encouraged to venture outside our comfort zones, take risks, and try new things. We were expected to approach all activities with enthusiasm and an open mind. Participation, not perfection, was the motto. Not only were we encouraged to be who we knew ourselves to be, but also to test the boundaries of who we thought ourselves to be. We were encouraged to evolve into different versions of ourselves, discovering more about what we were interested in, what we were capable of, and what we could become. At the end of every summer, we left braver and more adventurous creatures. I've attempted to approach all other areas of my life with the same open audacity and daring curiosity. Tip number 5, reflect. Every Sunday, we would assemble around a campfire to sing songs, put on skits, and reflect. More than anything, these gatherings served as a time to stop and think. They encouraged a consideration of the previous week, an evaluation of what had gone well and what hadn't, and a speculation of what we could improve in the upcoming week. The smoldering flames were an all too explicit reminder of the ephemerality of time, and to make the most of the remaining weeks at camp. They stopped us from recklessly foraging through life and prompted us to deliberately proceed. In addition to time, we would reflect on each other. At evening lineup, we could nominate someone to receive a fuzzy, which is a pom-pom ball with antennas, sunglasses, and feet, in recognition of a warm inner glow that they had given us. From this, I've learned to take time to reflect on life and on those who give meaning to it. I make efforts to recognize them and show appreciation. Tip number 6, surround yourself with positivity. Camp counselors are some of the happiest people on earth. To them, everyone is a superstar. Rain was never a forecast. There was either sunshine or liquid sunshine. They were just as excited to have apples for snack as they were to have chipwiches. Though at times I couldn't understand it. The mentality was energizing and enthusing and so empowering. It was infectious. I wanted to be around them, to bask in their positivity. Every day we had an hour of free play where we could choose to go to any activity around the camp. One counselor got campers absolutely psyched about a game he called Kick the Stick, which quite literally consisted of kicking a stick. Though this seems dreadfully boring, the kids loved it because the counselor made it lovable. He was someone they wanted to be around and made his game something they wanted to take part in. Find sources of positivity and be a source of positivity. And tip number 7, honor traditions. Evening lineup, campfires, and a last night of camp burning of the numbers of the year were beloved rituals. They provided nightly, weekly, and annual opportunities to evaluate the time passed since its last celebration. They provided a set time to reflect. They created a sense of constancy when so much, from bodies to friendships to interests, seemed to be in flux. Going to camp in and of itself was a tradition. To quote Mandela, "There is nothing like returning to a place that remains unchanged to find the ways in which you yourself have altered." Returning to the same place year after year provided a point of comparison to track our growth. I couldn't help noticing upon returning as a counselor several years after my last years as a camper, how much shorter and narrower the bunk line seemed, how much more structured camp days were, and how much simpler life became around kids. But of course, camp had always been this way. It was my life that became bigger and messier and more complicated. And as we were reminded at each Sunday campfire, Campers had been sitting on those same logs since the 1900s, staring into the fire and reflecting on their weeks. Our traditions tied us to a broader narrative of campers and camping, to something much larger than ourselves or that time or place. And so, even though the fires of my Adirondack summers have burned out, I've learned to honor traditions and make my own. Thanks so much, Emily. That was really amazing. And now that you've finished reading and listening to this, go unplug. How do you unwind and unplug without leaving your home? Share your thoughts in the comments section at quickanddirtytips.com/mighty-mommy, or post your ideas on the Mighty Mommy Facebook page, or you can email me at mommy@quickanddirtytips.com. Wishing you and your family a quiet, reflectful, and peaceful week. Thanks for listening, and until next time, happy parenting!